Hey there, wrestling fans. Welcome to Call It in the Ring, a recap of wrestling discussion. Yours truly, Marcus Stewart. We are talking about Monday Night Raw, July 30th, 2018, live from Miami, Florida, in my home state. Man, maybe I should have gone to the show. I'm really bad about following WWE touring schedules when they come to Florida. So I have a tendency to miss when they come down here. But yep, it was always nice to see them visit my home state. First off, we had kind of following a day of really tragic news. If you're not aware, we had not one, not two, but three deaths in the wrestling community. We lost Nikolai Volkov, of course, legend in the 80s, legendary foreign heel, Russia. Anyone that's ever been a big time Russian heel in WWE since the 80s kind of owes a bit of their success to Nikolai, legendary tag team with the Iron Sheik. Back in the day, he passed away yesterday, as well as Brian Christopher, aka Grandmaster Sexay, Jerry King Lawler's son, and one half of Too Cool, alongside Scotty 2 Hotty and Rikishi from the Attitude Era. That one sucks, because Nikolai was a little bit before my time, though I'm very familiar with his work. Grandmaster, however, I grew up with the Attitude Era, so I was a huge Too Cool fan back in the day. Used to love watching them dance with superstars, and I admit I would do the dance too when I was like 9 or 10, actually a little older, probably like 11. I would dance with them too, so it sucks that he's no longer with us. And then the third was Brickhouse Brown, who did not wrestle for WWE, but was a name on the Southern Territories back in the day. WWE only acknowledged, of course, Nikolai and Grandmaster. Wow, it's just crazy. 3 in one day. They say things happen in threes. Probably the worst kind of instance of that occurrence all yesterday. So, condolences to the families of those 3 guys. And yeah, just crappy situation all around. But anyways, Monday Night Raw. We opened the show with Roman Reigns coming out and pretty much saying, hey, I'm ready for Brock. He's supposed to be here. Let's do it. Paul Heyman comes out and talks about, hey, Brock's here, but we're not going to do that, pretty much. Roman then, proceeds to threaten him and, saying well, I'm going to beat him at SummerSlam, and said that he's going to send him back to the UFC, not as the champion, but as Roman Reigns is a bitch, which, this is pretty much just standard little back and forth of hey, I'm going to beat Brock for the title. There's not much more you can there's not much more Roman can really say that he hasn't already said at this point when it comes to this feud, because it's been going on for so long, and it's been the same general story since right before WrestleMania of hey, Brock's not here, what the fuck? I'm here. Screw that guy. I'm the rightful champ. I want to fight him. Where is he? It's kind of that same song and dance, so not much different there. But we do see a Brock Lesnar backstage in his hotel room, his locker room, reading a magazine, and the magazine was The Backwoodsman, which I was very fascinated in for some reason. I was like, oh, okay, he's reading that, which, Brock's an outdoorsy guy from where he likes to hunt, lives up in Saskatchewan, Canada, which from what I've heard from people that have lived in Saskatchewan and visited in, there's a lot of people try to get out. Brock Lesnar's one of the few people that willingly decided to move there to escape people, which he hates. But, he's chilling there reading this magazine. Heyman comes in and it's like, can you believe what Roman Reigns just said about you? And Brock does not care, because the issue of the Backwoodsman is far more fascinating than Monday Night Raw. Brock flat out says, he's like, I don't watch the show when I'm at home. Why would I watch it here? Which I completely believe. I don't even buy that as a scripted thing. I was like, actually, that's probably true in real life. He probably doesn't watch the show, because why would he? But as Heyman tries to show him his Roman said on his phone. Brock takes his phone and throws it against the wall and breaks it because he really does not care. He just wants to get back to reading The Backwoodsman. I myself would like to read The Backwoodsman now if it's that fascinating. Or maybe Roman Reigns is that boring that an issue of The Backwoodsman is more interesting than anything that Roman has to say. I guess you could go either way with that. But Heyman is in shock. He's like, I can't believe. Oh my God, he's acting like this. Anyways, we get to our first match of the night. A rematch between Constable Baron Corbin and Finn Balor. This was a surprisingly long match. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it wasn't bad either. It was fine, as their matches normally are. Corbin picked up the win, which is a little kind of annoying because it's kind of the classic kind of 50-50 booking of like, well, Finn won the first one, so Corbin has to win the second one. So I don't know if we're going to get a rematch. It seems like we would because after the match, Corbin beats the crap out of Finn despite beating him already. This feud doesn't seem like something that should go to SummerSlam, but that's also what it seems like it's setting up unless they get a rematch next week. But with SummerSlam on the horizon, I could kind of see them dragging this out till then. And also, I could also see the Demon being brought back for this. Especially the post-match attack, it just seemed like a little extra thing, a little extra salt in the wound that would cause Finn to be like, screw you, dude. Putting on the paint. Let's do it so I can murder you at SummerSlam. So we'll see. If it's going to go till that long, this feud needs a bit more than, hey, you're small. And then Finn rebutting like, hey, screw you. It needs something more than that. So we'll see where that goes. But we see Paul Heyman backstage with Kurt Angle. Be prepared to hear Paul Heyman's name a lot tonight. He tries to explain to Angle that, hey, Brock doesn't want to come out. I tried, but he showed up. That counts, right? Angle's like, no way, Jose. Jose was not on the show tonight, but Angle threatens Heyman with this ultimatum saying that if Brock does not actually show up into the ring, then Paul Heyman will be fired. He brings up some kind of contract stuff about like, hey, you technically work for Brock, but you also have a contract with WWE, which I have control of, so I will terminate that contract if Brock does not take his happy ass to that ring, and I guess he doesn't even have to do anything, just show up in the ring, basically. Which causes Heyman to panic, because he does not know how he's going to pull that off. We get a quick recap of the Evolution pay-per-view in October, which then leads to a backstage thing between Alexa Bliss and Alicia Fox. Bliss will be in Fox's corner later in the night as she takes on Natalya with Ronda Rousey. Mickie James is injured, according to Alexa Bliss. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, she also refers to Fox as a trailblazer in the women's division, which, sure, in the sense that she is a women's wrestler and competed in WWE, and by default, I guess she trailblazed. WWE really loves that word. You know how WWE has their buzzwords and they're just, they're words that they say over and over again, and you just know that when it becomes a thing with them, the word trailblazer has become that when it comes to the women. Like, Michael Cole also said it in the match after this, which was Natalya versus Alicia Fox with Ronda Rousey and Alexa Bliss in the respective corners. And, Cole says, like, these two women are trailblazers. And I'm just like, okay, like, regardless of whether or not you agree with that, it's just like, use another word. Just pull out a thesaurus. There's other ways you can say, describe someone as a trailblazer without hammering that specific word in. You could say that they paved the way, or that they set the table. They're forerunners. Just anything other than that word. But Alicia cut her hair too. She has like shoulder length hair. Looks good. Looks good. But these two had a match. Alicia picked up the win after intentionally drawing the ire of Ronda Rousey, which is like shaking up a hornet's nest that happens to be inside of a bull that happens to be inside of a bear. And that distraction, as Ronda tries to get into the ring and the ref is trying to keep her out, the distraction causes Alexa to nail Natalya, giving Alicia the win. But then post-match, Ronda's like, oh, hell nah. And then remembers that she's there to kill Alexa and then sprints around the ring, gets Alexa in the ring, does her cool judo throw that always looks super damn smooth, which, you know, I guess it should because it's Ronda Rousey. And gets in the armbar very briefly until Alicia breaks it up. But then she herself is about to get Samoa dropped. But then Alexa breaks it up. And then eventually the two double team Ronda and beat her up for a bit before getting out of dodge. So this time Alexa manages to narrowly evade evisceration. So we'll see what happens with that. Backstage again, Paul Heyman tries again to get Brock to come to the ring, desperately saying like, hey, you know, it'd be cool if we just went out there and maybe said hey to the universe, and, you know, maybe, hey, Miami, just really just laying it on, just trying to, it's like trying to get a really, really, really angry bear that is very much lazy, trying to poke the bear and just like, hey, do you want to just move over just even a little bit, just move over to this new spot. Brock hasn't finished reading the Backwoodsman magazine, and he has shifted his attention to American Frontiersman. He read that first magazine very quick. Brock is a quick reader, I guess. But now the American Frontiersman has his attention. And once again, I'm curious as to what American Frontiersman entails. I will subscribe to both magazines now that Brock Lesnar has read both. I wonder if he has sponsorships with both. Are we going to see both of those names on his shirt next to the Jimmy John's logo? Time will tell. But Brock is not happy to be interrupted in his reading of the Frontiersman. He tells Paul that he's really starting to piss him off and orders Paul to go get him a medium steak with potatoes and steamed broccoli before he decides to devour Paul instead. The big question coming out of this segment was, what will Brock read next? What magazine will he find? Will he find A Boy's Life? Will it be a zoo book? Will he have an old issue of WB magazine? Who can tell? Stay tuned, we'll find out. Kurt Angle makes Ronda Rousey for Ronda Rousey's first match on Raw. Kurt Angle makes it next week, her against Alicia Fox, because Ronda can't wait till SummerSlam. She needs to murder someone in the meantime. Angle's like, hey, I'll give you an appetizer and Alicia Fox. Here you go. Sacrificial lamb. So it'd be cool if we get to see Ronda wrestle on Raw next week. Awesome. That'll be a fun execution to watch. Elias comes out and he brags about his album. And of course, you know, talks about how great he is. And of course, which, you know, proceeds to him shitting on Miami. He makes fun of Pitbull, which isn't very hard to do. And then he shifts his attention to The Rock, which my dream has been for the last year is that, like, there has to be at some point a Rock versus Elias, like, rock concert. Like, they got to have a dueling guitar thing against each other. And I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen here, but I was like, man, if it was going to happen, this would be the show to do it. He's in Miami, so. And then a giant Rocky chant started up, of course, when he mentioned that The Rock wants no part of Elias. But you know who does want a part of Elias was Bobby Lashley, who interrupts Elias, kind of harkening back to Lashley's debut. You know, he debuted against Elias. And Elias invites him to sing with him, which you would think that would lead to Bobby, you know, not being an idiot and being like, oh, I'll sing with you, and then proceeding to kick the crap out of him. But Bobby actually goes along with this, and they actually have a duet together. I don't know the name of the song, but I know the song that they sing. It's like, you know, like, rockin' little baby and sing that song. Da, 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 da. Like, Bobby singing it. He's awful, as expected. And then he actually gets jumped from behind by Elias and kind of gets beaten up for a bit until Lashley eventually turns the tables on him. But I was shocked that Bobby, I guess, actually fell for this. If it was a trap, it seemed like it would go, I guess, what you expect of like, oh, Bobby pretending to play along and then kicking the crap out of Elias. Where it was Elias himself invited him, saying, Bobby's like, sure, actually goes along with it and then gets jumped and is surprised that he got jumped. I was really surprised to see that actually played out that way. So I don't know if Bobby's an idiot. Then again, Elias is such a big star at this point that I would be excited to share that spotlight. But it seems we're kind of going back to where Lashley started. It's like we're going to have another feud between these two. I'd say this is kind of a step down for Roman, but then again, Elias is one of the biggest stars in the company at this point, so maybe it's if he's not on par, maybe it's somewhat of an upgrade. It's kind of crazy to say about Elias. He's come a long way since in the last year and a half he's been on the roster. Kevin Owens bumps into Baron Corbin backstage, and KO brings up a very good point of, hey, Brock's here, and I'm set to face Braun for the Money in the Bank briefcase at SummerSlam. What if Braun catches in on Brock tonight? Like, what if Brock decides to go out to the ring and Braun takes advantage of that, and then if he cashes in, I lose my chance to win it, which was the big thing coming into this for me of like, okay, like Braun's been saying that as soon as Brock shows his face, this briefcase is going to go upside his head. Or, whatever. He's going to cash in on him. And I mean, obviously, he can't cash in until Brock actually steps into the ring, because it's not like the hardcore championship of like 24/7. The contract isn't that all-encompassing, so you can't just kick down Brock's locker room and have a match with him for the title, though that would be great. So I was wondering if they would like retain that continuity of like, there's no like logical reason why Braun would not cash in on Brock. So having the subplot of Brock just being like, nah, I don't even want to be here, so I'm going to sit in my locker room. Like, screw the fans. Screw everyone. I'm not going out tonight. And that preventing Braun from cashing in was actually pretty smart, and I like that KO brought it up. Because that's a logical thing for him to worry about. I like that I like the thought that was put into this. And, Corbin doesn't really care. Says like, yeah, you're out of luck. I can't really do anything. I can't make Brock go to the ring. And, if Braun... As long as Braun has the briefcase, he can do that if that were to happen. So, KO is worried about this. This led to our next match, which was Braun Strowman against Jinder Mahal. It's kind of fallout for Braun murdering him last week. At the very beginning of the match, KO runs in from the crowd and attempts to steal the Money in the Bank briefcase. Braun is like, oh, no, you didn't, son. And chases KO around, and then kind of in a funny moment, as he's running, KO passes the briefcase off to Sunil Singh, and which leads Sunil to getting run over, and Braun retrieving his briefcase, but then chasing Kevin to the back, which gives Jinder the count-out victory, which, sure, I guess if nothing else, it kind of plays into his whole, like, pacifist, I'm peaceful gimmick because he won the match without really having to lift a finger. Braun came back out because he realized what happened and tries to get his hands on Jinder. Jinder flees as he should have. Braun Strowman is the human version of Goro from Mortal Kombat. That was the only other thing that came to my mind, and which is a compliment. He's like a good guy Goro, the old GGG. So. Yeah. Let's see. Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin are backstage again. Angle gets a call from Stephanie. Stephanie gives him some instructions that Angle is not happy about. We were left wondering what Stephanie has in mind for the show. This transitions to another backstage segment where we see all the jobbers in the locker room just kind of hanging out in their little loser zone, including Mike Kanellis, who, yes, he still exists. Every time I see him now, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, he still works there. Mojo Rawley comes in and talks shit and says, like, I've run through everyone in the roster, and by everyone, that means No Way Jose and Tyler Breeze. He's run through all two people, but I digress. This causes Bobby Roode to stand up for the losers, which is, man, once again, face Bobby Roode is not good. And look at where it's gotten him. He is now the champion of the losers. Bobby Roode, former NXT champion and big star in TNA. He is now the loser savior, I guess. This leads to a brawl between Mojo and Roode in the locker room. And the referees have to come in and pull them apart. Yeah, once again, every day that Bobby Roode spends as a babyface is a day wasted. But Mojo Rawley, still impressing as a villain. I'm slowly every week getting more and more into his douchebag persona. Next match, we had Apollo Crews, accompanied by Titus O'Neil and Dana Brooke, taking on one half of the Authors of Pain, Akam. This feud is still going on for some reason. For reasons maybe of general laziness. Akam lost, which I just threw my hands up like, are you kidding me? Now, granted, I like Apollo enough. He's really talented. And I think deserves to be a little bit higher up than he is, even though he kind of has the personality of petrified wood. But, man, I know it's a singles match and it's not as bad as the Authors losing a tag match, but I don't want to see the Authors losing anything right now. The only thing they should be losing is patience at having to deal with Titus Worldwide every week. So seeing Titus pick up this win, and granted it was kind of a fluke win, but still I was like, not a fan. Anyways, we see Drew McIntyre getting ready backstage. Only for his match. He's facing Seth Rollins next. The only reason I bring this up is that Dolph Ziggler is hanging out next to him. He's got his hair down. He's in a suit, and his hair is very straight. And he looked like a combination of Triple H in 2003 when he was clean shaven and had the straight hair look with Ric Flair, as well as the Tekken 4 incarnation of Paul Phoenix. If you're a Tekken fan, that was when he got rich and he let his hair down and was wearing suits. Like a skinny version of both of those men. Tekken 4 Paul Phoenix, 2003 Triple H. I don't know. That's the only reason why I'm calling out this otherwise nothing little segment. This led to Seth Rollins, the Kingslayer, the Architect, the Arsonist, who loves burning things down, versus the bigger, meaner Seth Rollins, aka Drew McIntyre, which, I mean, if you put them side by side, they pretty much look like the same person, but Drew is bigger and meaner. This was the perfect match to kind of wash away the bad taste left at Akam losing to Apollo, because I like both of these guys. And they had a good match, as to be expected. Early in the match, Drew does like a slingshot to Seth. Like he slingshot Seth's throat into the bottom of the ring, like the frame. Like he pulls the apron up and slingshots his throat into the frame. Which I wonder, like, would that be a DQ? Wouldn't that kind of be doesn't that count? But I guess at the same time, I guess it's the same principle as throwing someone into the ring post or the stairs. Like you're throwing them into a part of the ring. So I guess not. I don't know. It ran through my head of like, I don't know about that. It seems like cheating. But there's a nice little second rope white noise that Drew hit on Seth at one point. And the match, Seth had the match won. He hit the stomp on Ziggler or Drew. He stomped his head right into the mat, which caused Ziggler to interfere and get in the match in a DQ, attack Seth before Seth could pin him. Of course, Seth still won by DQ, but him and Seth get into it before Seth hits a nice suicide dive to Dolph and escapes. And after that, we see Roman Reigns backstage on his iPad, catching up on episodes of Riverdale, when Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin come in, and Angle's like, hey, I talked to Stephanie, and just maybe to kind of like help Brock, go to the ring, I think it's best if you leave. Roman's like, I don't like this. I don't want to go. Kurt, what the hell, man? You're better than this. But Corbin is not having it and calls the cops in. So some cops are going to escort Roman out the building. Before Roman goes, he punches Corbin right in the mouth and to the floor, which, due to reasons of wrestling, does not cause Roman to be arrested for assault, as he does this right in front of the cops, and the cops are just kind of like, whatever. So Roman has been kicked out of the building. And next we have the B team. They come into the ring to cut a promo about how awesome they are. Bo informs us that the B stands for dream and how their dreams have not ended since they've won the title, and that the fans are now dubbed the B teammates. That is what we are. If you like the B team, you're a B teammate, which is, I've heard worse names. Not quite testicle or Canaanite, but it's pretty good. This causes Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy to appear in the ring and threaten them with deletion. But the Revival finally insert themselves into the story after spending the last few weeks kind of watching in the back. And they, pretty much say like, hey, we're awesome. We're awesome. You guys ain't shit. We want the tag titles. And this leads to a 3-way brawl between them, which then leads to a match between the Revival and the Deleters of Worlds with the B team on commentary. And the match itself was actually pretty fast paced. Like, they were moving out there, which made me kind of shake my head because the crowd at one point started chanting for CM Punk as well as Rusev Day. And I'm like, really? This is the match that you do that? Not like, I don't know, like the women's match or like, I don't know, like Apollo versus Akam even. Like, this is the match that, because this match, it was pretty, they were moving out there. It was a pretty fast-paced match. I was like, this match does not deserve that. B team on commentary, they were funny as they always are. They inform us that they have not slept at all, which is why they're still crazy. Bo Dallas hates fish, and that the B stands for whatever we want it to stand for, despite it clearly being the letter B. So, but the Revival win, which makes up for Akam losing. Anytime the Revival win anything, I'm like, yay! Like my heart goes all aflutter seeing the Revival win things. So hopefully they'll win the tag titles soon, and then maybe they can get an actual competitive face tag team to feud against. Which, admittedly, Raw is very light on competitive tag teams, really in general, as well as the babyface. Like the biggest babyface team, I guess, is the B teams. I guess they're faces now because the Leaders of Worlds might be heels. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell either way. But yeah, SmackDown's team is better. The Usos should probably go to SmackDown, or the Usos should probably go to Raw, or someone from SmackDown, a face tag team should go to Raw to kind of help that situation out. Seth Rollins is backstage being interviewed. He's frustrated with having to deal with two people at once. Unfortunately, he has to deal with two people at once again because he gets jumped by Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. They beat him down. He's left laying in the back. Seth is all like, as he's on the ground. He doesn't make that noise, but that's what I imagine him, like, It's kind of like his evil laugh, like his which is like a weird kind of nasally, almost Waluigi, but that's him when he's in pain, just So, yep. Riot Squad. And by that I mean Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan, because Ruby Riott is still hurt, take on Bayley and Sasha Banks. Logan is still rocking the Viking face paint. She has not gone full Viking yet, but it's there. Match was kind of whatever. I have a quick question though, for everyone listening. So, that move that Sasha Banks does with her knees? Either she does it off the top rope where she does the knees to the chest, or she does like the running variation of it. Is it called the Meteora, or is it the Neediora? Because I've heard it for weeks and weeks now, and I feel like I hear both. And odds are it's probably Meteora, as in like the second Linkin Park album, but I can't help but hear Neediora sometimes. So I don't know if they're actually saying it, if it's just me, but like I'm torn as to what it's actually called, because Neediora sounds like that would be the one, because it's like, it's a play on words of like, oh, she uses her knees, and yeah, it's kind of dumb, but I could see that being the move. But Meteora is most likely what it's called, even though it's kind of a random name for that move. But I don't know. If you've listened to it better than I have, please let me know. Meteora or Neediora. But also, Coach dropped in one of his patented stupid lines where he said that the entire Long Island will be watching I think it was this match or something involving Liv Morgan. But the entire Long Island, which is a weird way to phrase that, which Corey Graves immediately called him out on and said, like, dude, that was dumb. Sasha and Bayley pick up the win. They were also wearing matching gear, which I did not notice until the end of the match, but they had matching, like, custom-made gear with their names on it. Almost, like, pretty much like a tag team. So, I'm expecting this to split at some point. It seems they're really, building up, like, hey, we're cool again. So it almost reminds me of, like, having matching gear kind of reminds me of the Chris Jericho, AJ Styles feud, where they really kind of, like, swerved people of, like, oh, we're a team, and we got, like, merch made, which made people think, like, oh, if they have t-shirts, they must be, I guess they're teaming for a while. And then the next week, Jericho turned on them, and the t-shirt lasted, like, literally, I think, a night or a week. So maybe this will be that situation of, like, hey, they got gear, I guess they're going to be a thing for a while, and then next week, somebody stabs somebody in the back. But we'll see. Brock Lesnar. He is in the back again. He's still reading a magazine. He has not switched to a new magazine. He is still reading American Frontiersman. This magazine must be thicker than The Backwoodsman, or maybe it's just a more interesting read, so he is reading it more thoroughly, but he has not changed magazines. I can confirm that. I've checked my sources and fact-checking, so Paul Heyman comes in one more time, terrified, because Brock is not the one to mess with. He is not in the mood tonight, especially when he is reading something as engrossing as American Frontiersman. Heyman tries one more time to get Brock to the ring, and then he tells him about Angle's ultimatum of, like, look, I'm gonna get fired, dude, if you don't go to the ring. If nothing else, do it for me. Do it for your friend. We've been through so much. I'm your buddy. And then Brock straight up snatches Paul up, and it's like, let's get one thing straight. We are not friends. You work for me. And how long have you been leeching off me? Like, Brock gets terrifying here. And if nothing else, this whole thing has done a great job of establishing Brock as a total D-bag. He is playing his part kind of to perfection here. Like, he really does come across as, like, a jerk who really could not care less about the WWE or the fans. So well done on that, especially the way he snaps at Paul here. And, he sends Paul out to the ring to take care of business for him, because he is not having it tonight. So a very shaken up Paul leaves. This leads to a so there's an Elias documentary on the network. It premiered after Raw, and they showed a brief clip of it. And they mentioned it earlier in the night, but we actually got to see a clip of it now. And when they first showed it, I thought it was like a serious, like, documentary, like, about, like, his album, how that came to be, which seems to be the focus of it, like the making of the Elias album, which you can now listen to on iTunes and Spotify. I have not had a chance to listen to it yet. I need to get on that. I'm curious about it. But this seems to be in character, which I love, because, like, it looks really serious, like, okay, this is going to be a real thing. And then they're asking, like, superstars about, like, oh, what do you think of Elias pretty much? And Seth Rollins is like, oh, if I could rate his musical scale, it probably, like, a 1 to 10, it'd probably be a -3. And then, like, one of the studio, I don't know, executives, or one of the studio people is being interviewed, and he straight up says, like, I have no idea who Elias is. So this seems right up my alley. This seems like a fun thing that they're really playing into Elias's character, which I'm totally behind of. It actually gave me, it actually vaguely reminded me of the Vince McMahon DVD from, like, God, when was that? Like 12 years ago? Something like that. If you've never seen it, it's on the network, I believe, in the documentary section, but it's one of the funniest documentaries you will ever watch of, like, a wrestling thing. It's pretty great, because it's just people riffing, making fun of Vince, and it's kind of goofy. I recommend it, and it's kind of what this doc someone reminded me of, but I'm going to watch that. That looks pretty funny. And this brought us to our final segment of the night. Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin go to the ring. Angle's like, Brock, yay or nay, you coming out or what? Let's do this. A very dejected Paul Heyman walks out and, kind of quietly says, listen, Brock, he's not coming. He's not coming. Kurt's like, well, I warned you. and it goes to fire him. Paul begs Kurt not to do it, and he brings up a very good point of like, punish Brock, not me. He's the one that's, refusing to come out. Like, I did everything I could. Like, it's not like I didn't try to get him out here, which I was like, yeah, you're not wrong. Like, I could get behind that logic. Like, punish the guy that's not coming out. But Kurt is fed up with the whole thing, and Heyman at this point is literally on his knees, grabbing Angle's leg, begging him not to fire him, until Kurt fires him. He says, your contract is terminated, which then Brock comes out to the ring, which I'm wondering if that counts at this point, because Paul was very happy at this. He seemed relieved, even though the words, I'm terminating your contract, came out of Kurt's mouth. So technically he's fired. So it's like, now, if Brock comes out after the fact, does that still, like, is Paul still off the hook? Or is he fired? Is it too late now? Because Kurt already said it. I guess we'll find out next week. But regardless, a very, very, very irritated Brock comes out, gets an Angle as well as Corbin's face, and says, to both of them, do you guys have a problem with me? Kurt's a little afraid, which I kind of wish Kurt kind of stood his ground a bit, because Kurt has wrestled Brock numerous times and beaten Brock, and was probably Brock's greatest rival, really. So Brock to me, or Kurt to me, really shouldn't be afraid of Brock. At least to me, at least not as afraid. He should kind of be like, fuck you, dude. I've beaten you before. You're not so hot. Unfortunately, Brock showed how hot he was by giving the F5 to Angle, and then going to Corbin, but Corbin very wisely bails, gets out of the ring, and then Heyman, who was looking pretty pleased, of like, oh man, hey, everything worked out, right? But then Brock grabs Heyman and forces him to the ground very angrily, and is like, look at him! Like, look at what I did to him! And Heyman's struggling, saying that he can't breathe, and looking terrified, and Brock looks like he's going to just rip Heyman's head off, and put it on a pike, and then roast the head on the pike, and eat Heyman's head. That's how mad Brock was. But he does not go any further than kind of seizing Paul and putting him in a very compromising position. Brock, as Paul's life flashes before his eyes, Brock lets him go, and then proceeds to storm out. Roman Reigns does not come back into the arena, which is kind of surprising. The age-old tradition of, like, somebody gets thrown out, that means they're going to come back in no matter what. This time, I guess Miami-Dade, I guess our cops are better at their jobs than a majority of security and police forces in other countries, because Roman Reigns did not come back in and try to beat up Brock. So we end with an angry Brock storming out of Miami, and seems like it seems like if Brock is really on his way out of the company after SummerSlam, this seems to be reinforcing that, because it seems they're splitting up Paul and Brock after all this time. It also does a great job of really making you, like I said before, really making you hate Brock, because now he's turning on his one advocate, and, like, very scarily so, like, just frightening how he was snapping at Paul tonight. So it's really, like, they're turning everybody against Brock, which is great. That'll, if nothing else, that'll help Roman's reactions, maybe, because, he's the lesser of two evils. I still can't help but wish this was either Bobby Lashley or Seth Rollins in this spot, preferably Rollins, because, man, Rollins would be the perfect foil to Brock of, like, hey, I'm the hardest working guy. I've been busting my ass, having all these great matches, and I want to get back on top again. So, and also I have history with you. Pretty extensive history, so I want to redeem myself. Because the last time we fought, I was a villain, but now I've seen the light, and I want to beat you the right way this time. Like, I don't know, that's still a more interesting story than Roman Reigns once again taking a shot at Brock. But regardless, at least this Universal title reign of doom comes to an end. Actually, I forgot to mention this, but during the last segment with Angle, he straight up calls Brock the worst Universal Champion of all time, and Paul Heyman agrees. He said, "You're right. He is the worst champion of all time. I'm not gonna debate that." Which is funny, because the Universal title it's not even 2 years old, and there's only been 4 champions, so he's the worst of the 4. It's like, yeah, I'm the worst of all four people. So I guess, but yeah, Monday Night Raw, July 30th. That wraps up the show. Kind of for me, a middle of the road show. Not fantastic, not great either. We did get some SummerSlam advancement. Far away from SummerSlam, a couple weeks, something like that. So I don't know if Brock, if he'll appear again after this. Storyline would dictate that it would take a lot for him to show up on TV again, because it took a lot for him to come out tonight. So it's like, I don't know what they would have to do that would convince Brock to show up on TV again before SummerSlam. So they have to figure that out. Also, they have to figure out a way to do it without Braun catching in on him. So maybe he doesn't show up again until SummerSlam. Who knows? But, I like some stuff annoyed me with Akam losing, but other stuff like the Revival winning and just the logic in kind of explaining the Braun KO briefcase situation was nice. So, decent show. But anyways, that wraps it up this week for Raw. Join me next tomorrow for a SmackDown Live review. Once again, you can thanks for listening. You can also download and subscribe to the show on iTunes. Just search for Marcus Writes About Games. You can also do the same on Podbean and listen on Google Play. Again, Marcus Writes About Games. If you want to get automatic episodes, just add it to your queue, your library, whatever it is that they use to get these podcasts, as well as other video game podcasts, instantly right to your digital front door. So until next time, have a good one, wrestling fans. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.